Ron Hextall would know not to pick a fight with Felix Potvin.
And Potvin and Hextall are going to go, I know Felix doesn't think this is a good idea.
In the same way that you would think the Leafs would be able to beat an opposing team if they had a team employee playing in net for said team.
David Ayres, the Carolina Hurricanes surround him and defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs 6-3.
And you're listening to You Would Think, the Philadelphia Flyers podcast.
We are back. You're listening to You Would Think, the Philadelphia Flyers podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Collington. And if you're watching our YouTube video today over on our YouTube channel, search You Would Think, you'll notice that there is a third person. And not only is it a third person, it's a person that our fans have never seen before. Before we get to him, I will introduce Kevin Dursa because he's here as always. How you doing, Kev?
I'm doing great.
Good to be back, newly married. Congratulations. Yeah. Things went well.
Things went really well. It couldn't have gone any better, honestly. Under the circumstances, couldn't have gone any better. For all the stress that there was and stuff like that, turned out to be a great day.
Yeah, and it sounds a little corny, but you do have a little bit of a glow about you, so that's good to see.
Are you sure it's that, or is it the 4? Is it the 4 days of the sun that I got in Sea Isle this week?
It's probably
like
that
it was
too.
Pretty good.
Well, if we're speaking of men who know how to get a lot of sun, that does lead us quite nicely into our guest. If you're watching the video and you know who he is, you're excited that he's here. Our guest today is a friend of mine named Josh Gertler. How you doing? Did I pronounce that right? I don't even know.
Yep, no, okay. You got it.
How are you, Josh? Tell our fans a little bit about who you are.
So grew up in the Philadelphia suburbs. Bounced around a little bit. Big Flyers fan. I'm a one sport fan. So
absolutely. I
can't really talk on any other team.
No, it's funny. I actually talked to you about coming on the show years ago when Mike Jr. was still my co-host, and you said you weren't interested because we talked too much about the other sports and that you literally didn't care. No, but the reason I brought up taking a lot of sun is because last year you actually did something super impressive. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I did a southbound through hike of the Appalachian Trail. Most people go north from Georgia all the way up to Maine.
You're nothing if not a contrarian.
Yeah, so I did the opposite way. So it was about 2,192 miles. About up and down ridge lines.
Not like you're counting.
And, yeah. Well, it changes every year, but yeah, it was quite the experience. 13 states. Took me about 5 months of walking.
I was going to say, I don't know if you clarified, but on foot. You didn't just drive north to south. Like that's whatever. No. You hiked it.
No, I walked it. I walked all of it. Ran a little bit of it. But.
And half of it you were limping, so.
Yeah, it was dragging my hip along.
But either way, you're back, and one of the things we're looking forward to is Flyers hockey, and we're going to start talking about that. But before we do, make sure to follow us on the socials. We're at You Would Think everywhere we possibly can be. If not that, then at YWT Podcast. That's our Twitter. And, let's dive right into it. And, Kevin, your shirt is an absolutely fantastic reminder
I might need to back up a little for people to
headline for today.
Yes,
the return to hockey is fine. We're excited. The playoffs are coming up, but we're still weeks away from games counting. Yesterday, we got the best news we could possibly get as Flyers fans. And Flyers social media tweeted out a video of Oskar Lindblom ringing the bell.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're aware of what ring the bell means, you're done your treatment, you're cancer-free, you're, for all intents and purposes, healthy as much as you can be. So to see that, the nurses got emotional, he got emotional, I got emotional, not gonna lie to you.
Right.
It's fantastic to see, and we are absolutely thrilled for Oskar and his friends and family.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I had said at the very beginning with him, I think the article I wrote, I said I called him a warrior then. I'm like, he's going to fight this thing hard. It's just his personality. It's the way he is. And he goes through it with a smile too. Like his outlook on life is outstanding. Even through the last few treatments, things he's still sitting there doing it. He'll do an interview and goes, there's people who have it worse than me. And it's like, your perspective is outstanding on life. If that's the way you think. And I'll give a shout out really quick on here, because I'm sure we all saw the video that came out, stuff like that. Zach Hill's the PR guy for the Flyers. I've worked around him with some things. He's the one who's conducting the interview with them after it's over. And at one point in time, you hear him sit there and say pretty much what all of us were thinking of, because Oskar says something, and I don't remember exactly which line it was in the interview, but he says something, and you hear Zach go, man, I'm getting chills right now just doing it. Like, yeah, you are. You absolutely you are. Everybody was getting that feeling, because it's like this is going to be a huge deal. And I think the only thing that I'm afraid of at this point for him is not that he won't come back, but please let that comeback date allow for fans to be there, because it's not going to be the same if you say, oh, look, he made his return, here's an empty arena. You've got to put the crowd in there and let them welcome him back the way he deserves to be welcomed back to the ice. It's so cool to see. It was so cool to see. Philadelphia did a really classy thing many years ago when it was Mario Lemieux coming back from a cancer treatment, and his first game back's in Philly. It's a rival. Doesn't matter. You're going to support the guy and say, you made it back from something that nobody wants to see anybody lose that battle. You won. You made it back. You won. And now you're going to do it for one of your own players. And especially Bill Meltzer put something out there that I thought was really good for perspective too. And goes, remembering other cases of this in Flyers history. Barry Ashby died of leukemia, and Yannick Dupree died of leukemia. And this is a battle that was won. This is a good day. This is a good story.
It's a great day. That's why we absolutely had to leave.
And to be fair, I didn't, we all knew it was coming. He had said a couple times, we'd seen the stories, the last treatment's coming soon. He's almost done. We didn't have an exact date for it. So when we saw him skating the week before and I'll be done soon, we didn't realize soon was about a week later. Yeah. It was like, that's great to see. So, and I hope that there's more skating to come for him too, because tell you what, that video looked good. Didn't look out of place. I mean, I'm not saying he's not playing this year, but when I did a spot on 97.3 and they asked me that, and I said, you know what? The longer you push back next season, maybe the next regular season goes until the following June. Could you imagine? I mean, you're a year out from treatments. It's not impossible if he gets really healthy really quick.
I don't think it's impossible that he's playing in the playoffs next year.
Well, he turned around and he even said, as long as, once he was done with the chemo treatments, it was, as long as the doctor said it was okay, it was full speed ahead. He's able to go and start working out again regularly. So if he's going to work out regularly, who's to say that, he can't put in a good 6 months here and start to get himself in good game shape away from everybody else too. Like as far as I'm concerned, all of these players are going to travel wherever they're going to go. We'll get into that later.
It'll be Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But let's just say it'll be Toronto, and hopefully, from what I heard, hopefully Edmonton later on.
We're hoping.
That's what I've heard.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into it, but there's no reason why he can't stay in the area and use the facility by himself for all that time.
Absolutely.
Why not? Go do it and go work out and get in shape.
And one of the things we talked about when he got the diagnosis is that Philadelphia has some of the best cancer wards in the country. He's gotten the best treatment all the way through, and he continues to get the best treatment. And we saw that the other day, that he loved those nurses, and those nurses loved him. That wasn't just he's an athlete. They looked at him as a patient.
And that wasn't a show for social media either.
No. And he pulled out the signed jersey and gave it to him, and they had a really, really nice moment, and that was really nice to see. Yeah. But he's getting this fantastic care. He's if he's in Voorhees, he's 25 minutes from the best cancer wards in the country. God forbid, knock on wood, he has any issues.
Right.
And he's consulting with, again, the best experts in the world along the way. The path seems pretty clear, long, but clear for a return to the ice for him.
My words was, and the way I worded it, I don't ever want to put a timeline on something like that. It's unpredictable. No. But I turned around and even said, based on everything, considering the fact that you're still playing out the same season where he was diagnosed and he is now through cancer treatments in 6 months.
Amazing.
Which is amazing. You don't even know when next season happens. So my answer was, I said, I'll be shocked if he doesn't play in the next 2 seasons. Because the next 2 seasons is roughly a year and a half, 2 years from now.
Right.
I'd be shocked if he's not back on the ice in a game within the next 2 years based on all this.
Not when he's clear today.
Yeah, not when he's clear now, and you're still waiting to finish the season where he was diagnosed in December.
Yep.
If that's the way it is, I mean, if it was a normal offseason, I'd say now, October's really not as far away as you think it is.
But January
I don't know about
is
that.
Pretty far away.
With January, he's still got another 6 months, and then you're running through the season. That's why I said if you have to start the following season after that, what is it going to be? Maybe it'll be November. Maybe it'll still be January. Maybe whatever. that's over a year away. And then I'm saying within the course of the season, like if I said skip next year, whatever it may be, and go the following October to April, like normal,
Right.
he'll play at some point in that time.
I absolutely agree. And I think the team could definitely, I mean, he's a good enough player that the team is always going to benefit from him returning.
Sure.
So it's never a bad thing. You know, the sooner the better.
Right.
Josh, you saw that video, right? Did you shed a big manly tear over there? Or?
Yeah, it's special. I mean, you can't help but feel like optimistic about it all now.
Yeah, and a couple of videos came out of it that were really, really cool, man. I'm not gonna lie, I was tearing up in my my work truck.
But I mean, did you see all the other stuff they did too? I mean, I have to look it back up. But they had a kid who was at the who had the same cancer diagnosis, who was at a game and sent him a message. Like there's all that stuff. Like and the number. I mean, if we knew this already, this is not news. But the number of teammates who support him the way they do. I mean, how many
even players around the league?
Well, around like Gabe Landeskog shared it
hugely
and said this is the best news of the year.
Huge support from all over the league. Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it reached the other Swedish players. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist is a guy who was sharing stuff about it. Like at the beginning, you know, it's a big community. It's a big. I mean, it's big, but it's not so big at the same time. Where it's everybody's in the same boat. You know, we all love the game, and we all come from different places and things like that. And you know what would be real? You know what? Something else that would be kind of cool now that I just thought of it with the Swedish connection here with Lindblom is if this one of these details of the CBA goes through, wouldn't it be great if he made an Olympic team?
Okay, well, listen, you just brought up the CBA. We have to transition into the CBA now. But we do wish Oskar the best in his, journey back.
Continued recovery at this point. Now the recovery part from the cancer is over.
We've seen nothing but good signs. Now it's time to start getting back.
Now it's time to start
thinking about hockey.
Well, you know what?
We're not rushing anything.
We're not rushing
anything,
but
thinking about it.
It's not even time to start thinking about it because he already thought about it because he got on the ice a week ago.
Right.
Like we're looking at that and believe it, like my dad shot me a message and is like, is this even safe for him in this time or whatever? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, he's not doing it if 5 different people didn't tell him.
I agree.
Yeah, the doctors. The doctors obviously cleared it, but then there's the whole other mental health angle, right? And
being around the boys.
Sure. Some people brought that up, and it kind of like you have to. Everything's a balance.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, if you couldn't see a smile on his face when he took the ice, those pictures are it's a million words right there.
Yeah, and for hockey players, there's just something special about stepping on the ice after you've been away, right? You get that crunch of the ice and you're home. And I'm sure for a guy like Oskar, I'm sure it was killing him not being on the ice. So being back is absolutely fantastic. We do wish him the best. We do have a lot of very important hockey things to talk about, though. So unfortunately, we do have to move on. Kevin, you brought up the CBA.
Yeah.
It certainly seems like we're just getting a CBA.
Yeah, it seems like it. And you know what? Look, here's the thing about this from the beginning it's not necessary. Let's just put it this way. It's not needed for them to play per se.
Right.
Like this is not an expiring deal like we've seen with lockouts where you go, it's got to get done or they're not coming to play.
Right.
This thing has 2 years left.
They still have a buffer.
Fine. The reason that they're doing it is fully for the financial stability of the league in terms of the balances between players and ownership over the course of the next 2 seasons, which will be critical for all the revenue that's been lost to this point from all the stuff with the pandemic. So with that in mind, they're trying to build a future. And look, I'm happy with that news because of the fact that you have 2 years left on this current one, which you're going to wipe out to create a new one. And then you're going to extend it 4 years beyond that, which means that for 6 years, we're not talking about this. That's great.
And don't you almost have to, though? Don't you almost have to kind of wipe it and just kind of start anew with
for their sakes? Yes. Yeah. I mean, for what they're going, especially for this time, yes, they absolutely probably have to.
Because a lot of what I've read is like, even for like the guys that like don't want to play, right? They don't want to be away from their families. They don't want to risk it health-wise. Like, just for a sport, the NHL needs like to like come to some sort of agreement going forward because there's so many ramifications for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Right.
And some of those ramifications, we've heard rumors of the cap remaining flat for a couple of years. I heard 2 years where it remains at 81.5, which is the current number. And then 1 year where it goes to 82.5, I believe is the next 3 years.
Right.
But also one of the concessions from the owners during this was the fact that we're going to get Olympic participation
I mean, I think that'd be cool as anything.
For the next two
in
Olympics.
22 and in 26. So that basically takes you through the end of Alexander Ovechkin's career, and we know he's been the biggest proponent of it.
Maybe.
I was about to say the same thing, Kyle. I'm like, who do you think led the discussion there on that one? Who
That
wants
was
to go
Alexander
play in the Olympics?
Ovechkin in Gary Bettman's ear going, Gary, we need Olympics or I'm not coming back.
But they were always gonna have 22. They didn't care about South Korea, but they cared about China.
Yeah, but the IOC might not have let him back in.
But
I think if you can go, but if you go to the IOC and tell them you're giving them the next 2 Olympics, I think you can get back in for China.
Yeah, because they have to start paying for the insurance again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the accommodations, because that's what they dropped off for the,
I think a part of it from Ovechkin's standpoint too is let's just say, what's the one thing? This is the one thing Ovechkin wanted to do, right? He wanted to go back to the Olympics. What's the one thing he doesn't? What's the one thing he doesn't do? He never plays in an All-Star game.
Nope.
He doesn't want any part of it. He says, I'm going to bypass it. I'll accept your 1-game suspension for not playing so I can rest and be ready for the playoffs. But I'd rather go play in the Olympics, and that's the thing. I think people want to represent their home countries. And I even said, think about it. I said this on 97.3 earlier in the week. Isn't it more exciting when you're getting ready for an Olympic, when you sit there and you go, this loaded Team Canada is going to play a loaded Team USA?
It's a lot of fun.
I mean, let's put it this way. Think about it now from all the new players that you're going to get. Is the face of Team USA going to be Patrick Kane anymore, or is it going to be Austin Matthews?
It's going to be Austin Matthews.
Going to be Austin Matthews.
Before we get off Ovi real quick, and I do want to talk about Team USA, Team Canada. I do want to talk about this a little bit. Before we get off Ovi, though, it is worth noting that he will not actually technically get to represent Russia. Russia is still under suspension for that 2022 Olympics. So they will play under the OAR flag, the Olympic Athletes of Russia flag that they played under in 2018.
Right.
Just worth noting. And that's why I think he might hold on to that 26 so he can play under Russia again.
But I don't think that bothered anybody else who did. I mean, last time they did it, it was anybody who wasn't playing in the NHL essentially. So Ilya Kovalchuk played in it. Yeah. And it didn't bother him, and I'm sure it doesn't bother anybody else that that's the way it's labeled. I think they just want the opportunity to go. And, So my thought with it,
Artemi Panarin, Nikita Kucherov, and Alexander Ovechkin are all going to play for the same team.
I mean,
you want to be a goalie?
But this is the thing. My reference is instantly loaded Team Canada, loaded Team USA. How about loaded Team Russia, loaded Team Sweden, loaded Team Finland? Everybody is stacked when you add all the NHL players. Everybody is stacked, and that's what makes the Olympics so much fun when the NHL players go. Yeah, because it turns it into what the NHL tried to replicate with the World Cup. Right, and you don't know who's going to win because every team is so talented. It changes the whole game. I mean,
and the way
you
kind
of have an
a goalie can steal any game. Sure. Frederick Anderson can steal 3 games for Denmark. It's not impossible.
Right. And here's the thing. Do you have an expectation for it to be the 2 countries that have the most players involved? Sure you do. Team Canada, Team USA, it's what it comes down to. And it's what let's just say, we're going to watch that really closely all the time. But I remember gold medal games. I think what was it? 06's gold medal game was Finland-Sweden. Yeah. Fun game. No problem with that. I enjoyed it. Let's go this way. You took all of the professionals out of the picture. I even enjoyed the game. It was the Olympic Athletes of Russia against Germany. I think
that was a great game.
It was a great game.
Great game.
If I can find the entertainment in watching a bunch of players who I don't even know if I really know who they are, right? That not too many of them anyway, and enjoy that game between the Russian athletes and Germany. Yeah, it's crazy. I think I can go back to enjoying loaded.
Turns out you're a fan of hockey.
Yeah, exactly.
And just seeing high-level hockey is always fun. All right, 2022 gold medal game. Give me your competitors and who wins.
Oh man,
Josh, same question.
Whoever has it first this one. I mean,
2022 gold medal.
Well, yeah. I think I told you who I think the competitors will be because I've said it a couple of times. I think that's really what it would come down to.
You're in for U.S. Canada. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, let's put it this way. Do I think there's challengers to that? No, but do I think there's challengers to it? I absolutely do, and I'd love to see. You know, what's hard for me to make this decision too is on the surface, I'm sitting here saying it should be those 2 because I think those 2 have the best chance to make the best roster. But I'd love to know because obviously it comes back to someone's going to construct an Olympic roster. So
Oh,
who's
we're going
it
to
going
talk
to
about it a little bit.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So who's it going to be, and who are you going to put on these teams? Because if you don't put together the best team USA or the best team Canada, I'm sitting there watching Russia in the corner going, look at who we've got, and we have no problems picking those
Don't
guys.
sleep on Sweden.
I've seen
Sweden,
lists. I've seen lists with Team Canada where it's like there's like 9 natural centers.
Yeah.
Like,
I've seen
in
that where the
forwards.
first line is like
Yeah.
Crosby, McKinnon, Bergeron. I'm like,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
it's gonna be a chemistry thing, really.
Right.
It's a chemistry thing.
You're throwing together the best players, but you still need like an actual team to grind it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, throughout history, 1980, here we go.
Yeah. I hear you, Kyle, on don't sleep on Sweden. My question for that would be, are you going to try to go with the same route you've always gone with, which is who's your goalie? Are you going to try to use Lundqvist one more time, or is there somebody else waiting?
There are
in the
enough
wings?
options out there.
Will he be playing?
I'm not sure if he'll be
Right.
playing in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I don't know either.
If we're
That's the
picking a
thing,
team
but-
now, I think you go with Henrik Lundqvist.
Oh, I'm not
If
saying
we're
he
picking
wouldn't
a
make
team
the
2 years
but-
from now, I don't think he's there.
Let's put it this way. I mean, let's just say the last time, or not the last time, but I went back and I looked at the 2010 Canada roster, and I don't even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Luongo is the one who got most of the starts, but Fleury's on that team, and it's like, how do you pick between those two at that time? That's literally,
Yep.
It's almost, and I believe I think Tim Thomas might have been the other one for Canada.
That sounds about right.
So no, I'm saying, how do you pick a guy who is
American?
Oh, he might be on the American roster. I was looking at the gold medal rosters. That's why I'm saying. So Tim Thomas was on the American roster. I forget who the other Canadian goalie was, but it was another one who was a good name. And it's like, how do you pick between even those two? How do you pick between Fleury and Luongo at that time? It's 2010.
Crazy. Yeah.
How do you pick between those two? It seems impossible.
Whoever wakes up feeling better.
So, well, exactly. I mean,
all right.
there's
So
gonna
you
be
got give
discussion for
me
that.
a game. You got U.S. and Canada. Who's winning?
Probably Canada, but I'd love to see the rosters to know.
All right,
I'd love to
Josh.
see who U.S. puts out there.
Yeah. Give it to me, Josh.
I'm going with America.
You're still doing the U.S. Canada final though?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't put Canada there.
Okay.
Because I can't tempt the universe with the possibility of giving Sid another golden goal.
No.
I can't do it. Because if I have to hear Iggy one more time, oh my God.
Okay. I know you can't tempt yourself with that, but what if he's the one? And
don't care.
hypothetically, you don't.
He
care.
can do it in the bronze medal game.
No, that's not
Whatever
what I'm
he's going to
saying.
blow, he can blow it in the bronze medal game against
I'm saying,
Sweden.
all right, fine. What if it's Sidney Crosby who scores the gold medal goal, the golden goal, on an assist from Claude Giroux with Carter Hart in net?
You think Giroux's going to make it?
I don't care.
They keep him on every
Drew
roster.
didn't make it. I know. They keep Drew
Claude's
on
not
every
making
roster,
it. Claude's not making it.
He could have another 100-point
would like
season.
to-
He's not going to make
I
it.
would like to
convinced
think
Claude's
that there's
not
going to be
making it.
people who are smarter than that who will be working for Team Canada eventually. But
They'll probably keep Couturier off of it.
There's no way. You cannot deny Sean Couturier at this point.
He's been off some lists.
He's gonna win.
It's hilarious.
someone's going to get
Like,
snubbed.
I know.
Someone's going to get snubbed. That's the
I
problem.
know, but like, oh, man.
So I don't know if
He
you
was
can,
born in Arizona anyway.
Can you see this? This is Team Canada 2020 line.
Okay. Anthony Cirelli, Sean Couturier, Ryan O'Reilly.
Can you imagine?
I like that line. I love
Oof,
that
that's a line. Ooh, baby.
So I
that
don't know
is-
if you guys follow
that's-
this JFresh on Twitter.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know either.
He does a lot of like international stuff. He's like a word generator.
Okay.
So,
That's got to be one of the best defensive forward lines I've
That's
ever
a good
seen.
line.
I mean, that's three guys who could easily be in Selke discussion every
And
year.
Sean
Oh,
Couturier, Sean Couturier can be aggressive as he wants taking that face off because if he gets kicked out, Ryan O'Reilly
Ryan
comes in.
O'Reilly's going to come in, and if not Ryan O'Reilly, it could be Anthony Cirelli, who is also good
Right.
at faceoffs and a good defensive forward.
did you guys notice who was in the middle though?
Yeah, they put Couturier in the middle.
So is Ryan O'Reilly allowed to use his weird little lacrosse stick in the Olympics? Like, do they not flag him on that?
Oh,
You've seen his stick, right? Like, if you
I
guys
know what
don't
you're
know,
talking about. Yeah,
if our listeners haven't seen, Google what Ryan O'Reilly's stick looks like. It's the craziest thing. His blade is almost flat for like the first 90% of it, and then the last like 3 inches is just a hook. It's just a hook, basically. It's the weirdest stick on the face of the planet, and it's not legal. And no one's ever called him on it. And I imagine that in a gold medal game, I would certainly be calling him on it. I don't know about you.
Mark Stone does something weird too.
Mhm.
Like, he's got like a super long stick, I think, in games, but he uses like a short stick in practices or something like that. I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Honestly, Mark Stone can kind of do whatever he wants because he's so good, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing is working.
Stone's like Couturier, right? Just like a magnificent brain.
He really is. He's one of the more intelligent players I've ever seen on the ice. Just in terms of his IQ is incredible.
I think I've liked him for probably 4 or 5 years now as a player. And I'm going back to when he was still with Ottawa, obviously in the beginning during some of those. When he was good during Ottawa's playoff run a few years back, and then was probably the best player they had for those years that they were awful. And then shows up in Vegas and doesn't miss a beat. So, you put him with talent, I guess,
It's
It
insane.
took a few years. It was like a slow rise of superstardom, really, with him.
With him, but yeah.
It's the same way as Sean Couturier, right? Like he's defensive for years and years and years, and then nobody notices till he starts scoring 30 goals.
You know what the major difference between the two, though, is Coots just was out the gate, like kind of a slow grind through the
always
NHL,
defensive.
Yeah.
Right? But he was a highly tutored first-round pick, top, 11th or something.
He was a potential number 1 leading up to his draft.
At one point,
he fell to number 8.
Yeah.
Stone was like a 6-rounder and like had to spend like 2 or 3 years in the AHL and
They're
just like
different
complete
paths.
opposites, but kind of got to a similar place.
Yeah, definitely. And, we've seen a little bit of a late bloomer tag applied to both of them a little bit in terms of not being super studs early on. But no, getting back to a little bit of news, we do have a lot to talk about. We got to move on to our next topic here. Kevin, did we talk about the draft lottery last show, or did we miss
didn't.
that?
And before we go on, before we move on from the CBA, because here's the reason. Because Kyle says it's just about every week we record. Here we are on Friday morning this time.
We are on Friday morning, and things are very subject to change.
I was saying, by the time you listen to this, it's probably going to be different. Here's what I got this morning, and I've gotten this every morning. I wait for Bob McKenzie's tweets every morning at this point. And it's the same thing as it was yesterday. There is, let's just wait. So there's nothing yet. So again, they're going to be
still in a holding pattern.
Right. So they're still, both the NHL and the NHL Players Association will be working again today, trying to finalize an agreement on phases 3 and 4, which includes return to play protocol, CBA extension, transition rules, critical dates calendar, all that type of stuff. Trying to finalize language and tie up the remaining loose ends. Believed to be close. But and I love this. I love the way Bob McKenzie words this tweet. It's believed to be close, but we've been reporting that for 2 days and it's still not done. As like they say, it's not done at all until it's all done.
It's not done until everybody's ink is dry.
Tentative agreement could be reached today, Friday, July 3rd.
But it could also be July 9th.
But it may very well carry over to the weekend.
Right. So question about this though.
Sure.
Is this it? Like, is this just one thing? Like when this agreement,
this is the CBA.
Redo the CBA but like, do the players have to vote before that, right?
No, here's what. So not to what I understand. So here's what I'm saying. So it says, once tentative agreement has been reached, whenever that may be, it's expected the NHL and NHLPA will issue a joint statement to that effect. Then the ratification process can begin.
Oh, okay. Then the players vote
on the NHL side, it can happen fairly quickly. A board of governors conference call can be arranged in short order. Ratification would follow. Mm-hmm. On the NHLPA side, it's a little more involved and time consuming. When a tentative agreement is reached, the NHLPA Executive Committee will have a call in order to approve/endorse the agreement and then take it to a full NHLPA membership for a vote.
So,
go ahead.
Because it's like the 7 teams that aren't even in this tournament or whatever. They're all going to vote on like the hub cities and stuff too, which is going to be a little funny.
Yeah, I guess they are, and that's that. I think what they're more voting for is whatever they come up with for all the other stuff.
CBA.
It's the CBA, it's the escrow, it's the the deferral of contracts, it's all which has already kind of been semi-agreed to. By the way,
the deferral.
By the way, Bob McKenzie puts out all of the dates are tentative and highly subject to change. But if an agreement, if an agreement or ratifying drags on, changes can and will be made. But the understanding is the target dates are. July 13th for Phase 3 to open with full training camps. July 26th, teams reporting to hub cities. August 1st, the games begin.
Notably,
August
Bob McKenzie.
1st, really?
That's what's being said.
Bob McKenzie did also tweet one date that we can pencil in.
Yep.
Pencil in is the fact that free agent frenzy is expected on November 1st. because contracts that expired at the end of June and would have led to free agent frenzy yesterday have been extended to October 31st.
Sure. So
Just
that's
tentatively, just as a right. So just heads up.
Deductive reasoning tells you a
in.
bunch. Yeah, deductive reasoning tells you a bunch of other stuff. October's probably going to be the draft, somewhere in the range of October,
which means they want. We've already heard that they want to award the Stanley Cup October 5th ish.
Right, somewhere in the range of early October, and that's still the plan. So.
Yep.
So there's one interesting thing with the dates, though, right? Because for the last month or even two, it kind of said like July 10th was a target for training camps,
right?
With like a week into August for games to begin. Right?
I think we
shortened
always
that
heard,
a little bit, right?
I think we always heard 3 weeks. Some places were reporting 3 to 4 weeks. Some places were reporting 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
So it kind of depends on which source you looked at.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I saw was if it was going to be July 10th, then by the 23rd or 24th, they wanted them out to the hub cities. Yeah. And then there was supposed to be an exit. I don't even want to call it preseason because it's really not preseason.
A couple
it's
of
an exhibition.
Games.
Well, no, now it's Kyle. Now it's down to
Is it one?
I had heard.
I heard 2 or 3.
You're right. I heard 2, and then all of a sudden now they're getting one game.
Oh boy,
yeah, that's injury risk. It's just
I get it.
They're condensing it even more.
I think the players definitely need a game to get some legs under them.
Well, and here's the thing about the other date too.
Especially with the expanded rosters.
Yeah. Here's the thing about the other date, too. August 1st, if you're saying August 1st for the games, I had actually heard July 30th at one point in time. So even those 2 extra days.
On or around.
Yeah. Well, no, but even those 2 extra days make a difference when you're talking travel. Like, we're starting on the 13th now. Okay. We're traveling by the 26th, which is 2 weeks in.
And by the way,
we're starting that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've mentioned hub cities a couple times. It seems as though Toronto and Edmonton will be the hub cities. Toronto will house the East in 6 blocks of they have a name for the section of the city, but they have several blocks cordoned off in that section of the city. And
it's somewhere downtown, I can say that much probably,
And Edmonton will be the other hub city as of right now. Again, Friday morning. That's not technically official. It's all subject to change based on this vote. But as of right now, July 3rd, Toronto and Edmonton are kind of our hub cities, and
well, let's put
the conference finals and finals are going to be in Edmonton. Is the current plan?
That's the current plan, and
so hopefully the Flyers go to Edmonton.
Yeah, hopefully, right? Let's put it this way: do your own. Like, there's still technically, I guess, there's technically 4 or 5 cities still left
that haven't been eliminated.
Here's the thing: do your reasoning here and go. The 2 in Canada are obviously leading the way. One of them is Vegas, which at this point in time would be as foolish as it gets to do this.
I mean, Vegas is about as close to eliminated as you can be at this point.
Then you have LA and Chicago, I think, who are still technically in it. And
they're
LA doesn't sound good.
Because of the market size. That's the only reason they're still in the conversation here.
Well, correct. LA doesn't sound great because California is not that far off from Vegas. And here's the thing about Chicago, and I don't know how, don't hold me to my word on this, but I thought I heard something on the station yesterday on 97.3 as I was just listening throughout the day that I guess maybe it's given the situation in Florida or whatever, or actually, no, I'm sorry. It's the NBA wants to use Chicago as a hub for the 8 teams that aren't making the playoff there and letting them play their own mini tournament there. So
yeah, I have heard about that. Yeah.
So, but if you're going to take teams and put them in Chicago for another sport, how are you supposed to use that city for another sport that has 24 teams or 12 out of 24? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, and I would like to point out that U.S. travelers will not be allowed into Europe when Europe reopens with the way the U.S. cases are currently trending. I think it makes sense to get as many people into Canada as humanly possible, as quickly as humanly possible. And both,
they're going to get waived.
I think both hubs definitively need to be on the same side of the border because I don't know if that border is staying open for the 3 months it's going to be necessary for the playoffs.
Well, they're doing waivers. They're going to have to because there's no timeline for the 14 day. There's not enough time for 14-day quarantine.
Right. I mean,
so I kind of want to talk about Vancouver.
Okay.
Right. So did you guys read that? Basically, the British Columbia Minister of Health was the reason that Vancouver dropped off and it became Edmonton. And the reason for that, allegedly, is that they did not agree with the NHL protocols for if a player tested positive.
I did hear that. Yeah.
I heard something along that line, too, and that's how quickly that dissolved their their bid.
I didn't hear exactly the details. I don't know if British Columbia was worried about one case, shut it down, and the NHL has very clearly said they're not going to shut it down for one case. So I don't know if that was the issue. Whatever the number was in terms of cases to shut down, apparently they disagreed.
And you've got big political differences in Canada between British Columbia and Alberta. Yeah, like stark.
Yes.
So.
And we see that in terms of Edmonton apparently being much more accommodating to what the NHL wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're going to be not only one of the hub cities, but the city where you put your conference finals and finals.
Yeah.
They apparently have a lot of confidence in Edmonton remaining a viable option for several months.
That's an interesting hill to die on, though, to keep the NHL out of your city and to lose that. So it must be something significant.
Maybe, yeah, and again, you talk about stark political differences. There's a whole variety of ways that conversation could have gone.
Yeah.
But either way, we have our hub cities. We have our tentative start date. We're starting to hear things about when games might start. We're really starting to roll forward towards playoffs here. It's really kind of starting to crystallize.
Yeah, and let's put it this way: when it comes to the hub city thing, I want to read something that I found the other day. TSN's Ryan Rashog retweeted it. So it's not coming directly from me, retweeted it. And he's based in Edmonton. So he's going to have some background knowledge in Edmonton.
Right.
But here's the thing about Edmonton. So we're talking about Vegas. And we're saying, Vegas was one of the front runners' favorites. How long have they been a favorite? For about a month and a half, right?
Yeah.
So it's been over a month that we've been talking.
We were secured that Vegas was in because we heard that the NHL had secured venues and secured hotels and had it on lock.
And I don't know what the exact number is at this point because it's so hard to keep track of when it just keeps going the wrong direction, right?
Right.
Here's a tweet that I saw that Ryan Rashog retweeted about the pandemic update in the Edmonton area. Roughly. Okay?
I think I heard this. Yeah.
Okay. In June, they conducted almost 60,000 tests and had 482 total positives, which is a positivity rate of 0.8%. That's lower in Edmonton. That's lower than their previous 3 months combined.
Awesome. That's great. And
total number of deaths, 2. In the last 2 months, 3. So. And there's 3 people currently in the ICU with this.
Seems like a pretty good place to put a hub.
Right. And Alberta, by the way, they threw in there, Alberta is the only province in Canada with over 100,000 tests per million.
Okay. So they're testing aggressively there.
So they're testing aggressively.
And they're
getting numbers of positivity that are less than 1%. How do you not – let's put it this way.
That's a fantastic indicator.
A number of positivity less than 1% is everybody gets vaccinated for something and someone still has a shot of getting it.
I almost want them to put the whole thing there. That's those numbers are crazy low. I almost want them to put both hubs there.
Well, I know, but this is why Edmonton basically wins out. And not only do you get a hub, but this is where the last grouping will come when the time comes. Like we're taking the teams out of Toronto and we're going to move them to Edmonton for the conference final and the final because it seems to be the safest place you can find.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's pretty isolated. Nobody flies there.
Right. Who chooses to go to Edmonton?
Well, not Chris Pronger.
Well, and
certainly not.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, because I got asked about this, and I got asked about it when it was Vancouver still in the running, and it's like people go to Vancouver to film movies because there's isolation,
all the time.
Like it's all there. Yeah. And I mentioned the Olympics that was there because you had an Olympic Games there, you created an Olympic Village. That's what you need.
Would have been amazing for a hub.
I did that interview on the air, got off the air, and 20 minutes later, here's Edmonton's bid, fully listed, and it sounded like an Olympic setting, and I'm like. That's it. That's the ticket. You got to create an Olympic Village.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And like I said,
what better place to do it?
With numbers like that, I'm absolutely positive that the NHL has made the correct choice in putting Edmonton as one of their things. Assuming that everyone comes into the bubble and you get a relatively small number of positive cases, because there's likely to be a couple. Everyone's coming in and getting tested. Mm-hmm. You're likely to have a couple. As long as proper precautions are taken with those people, and the bubble is preserved, that sounds absolutely phenomenal.
Well, that's why I want to bring up the thing about the testing, like the latest update they gave on Monday. Too.
The fact that they're testing that aggressively is really nice.
Not Edmonton. I'm talking about the NHL's testing numbers because I had mentioned like a lot of people took a look at the number on the surface and said this is not good. It's not going to work. Whatever. And my thing was context, perspective for a minute. You release an update that says 250 players have been tested, which they have to be during phase 2.
Right.
15 total have tested positive. My first thought was, of the 15, is it 15 new ones or is it the 11 that we heard about plus 4?
Right.
Because if it's plus 4 in another week or week and a half,
that's not bad.
That's not bad.
You can
Let's
contain that.
For perspective, it's out of the 250, 15 total is 6% exactly.
Okay.
Not a great number, right?
No.
It's not a great number. For perspective, though, that's 6% of the players in phase 2 in 3 weeks.
Right.
Which means roughly, all right, so you've had 5 positive tests per week.
And again,
from this group of players.
I think it's also worth noting that we are talking about professional athletes in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. We are talking about basically the peak of human physical performance. So if anyone can handle a small number of mild cases, it's professional sports leagues.
Sure it is. And granted, this virus doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, and it doesn't make a difference. Like, you could, the best guy in the best shape in the world, let's just say Ivan Provorov, the physical specimen that he is, the workout nut that he is, he's the insanity he goes through, as people have said, doesn't mean he's not susceptible to A, getting the virus, and B, he could be the type of guy who it hits him and he's the one who goes into the hospital.
Absolutely.
You never know. It doesn't discriminate. That being said, I read a number for the NBA. The NBA's positive testing rate is 7.1%.
Okay.
25 players out of about 350, I think is what it is, something like that. And the key that I found to that was the date that they listed of, this is the number from blank to now, was June 23rd.
Okay.
So in 9 days, you had 25 tests, like 25 positive tests, and the NHL has done it for 21 days and has 15. Plus 11 that are out there that you go, they went somewhere to find out that they had a positive test, but it wasn't conducted through the league, which means that they are free. They're allowed to do whatever they want. Like, it's not, and even the players in phase 2 currently who are in the training facilities technically are allowed to do whatever they want. I thought it was something, and I mentioned this on the air at one point in time, I think it says something when Igor Zamula, a prospect for the Flyers, comes out and details to Russian media, this is what phase 2 looks like. We're getting tested twice a week. They're cleaning our facility every 30 minutes. We are wearing masks everywhere except for when we're on the ice. And we're eating only what the team provides us. And we're not really going out. And there are exceptions. Like, can't deny what you might see popping around on social media. A couple of the guys have gone golfing. Some of them might go do something but you're doing something that's not, in the grand scheme of things, is not overall harmful when you're hanging with them anyway.
Jake Virtanen was seen on camera at a club.
Well, see, but that's not what the Flyers do. Like, here's the thing. If the Flyers had any positive test.
I'm sorry, and the team had a talk with him.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
If the Flyers had a positive test, right, we'd know about it by now.
Yeah.
Not who it is, but we would know. We would have some
certainly heard about the Phillies.
Right. But you're going to – well, and here's the thing. Then the Phillies put specific players onto an injured list, and now you go, gee, I wonder why. Like, you're speculating.
10-day DL.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. And see, here's the thing. I think –
sorry, Josh, is that too much baseball for you? We'll make sure not to –
no.
I skimmed that article just in case.
Right. Hockey's going to be more – I think hockey's going to be more discreet about this, not in terms of who's testing for it, but I'm saying in terms of we're not hearing anything anyway about what goes on the ice. So who's to say that, like, we're not being told daily, this guy didn't practice today just because.
Right, because
whatever.
You still have
there is
none coming in, and not everyone's here.
Guys take a day off from practice because they just want to rest their body physically, not because they're sick. It's we're never going to find that out until games start.
Have we talked about media at all in any of these hub cities? Like, is there going to be like anybody?
I imagine some national media is going to be there.
Probably, and they're going to, from my understanding, what's going to happen is they're going to rig up some international feed that goes to everybody. So even broadcasters are going to have to work from home.
So that's what they're going to be doing. They've talked
that's
about that.
That's the thing I've heard. I don't really, you know what? I think right now they're not even focused on those details as much because they're trying to finalize all this.
They're still trying to get dates in place, right?
Correct.
Because a complete lack of media is going to obviously keep things even more hush-hush.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unless some players like Tony D'Angelo just start tweeting everything.
Honestly, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but I would love for players to start taping stuff in the hotels, like Jordan Last Dance style. I would love.
Yeah, we were talking about this last show.
I would love it. Yeah. I would love these guys to just just vlog stuff, and don't put it on YouTube. Don't tweet it.
Right.
Put it on a hard drive and talk, and come back to it in 10 years and put out The Last Dance 2 and make a pile of money.
Someone's got to document
Fortnite. They're just gonna sit around and play Fortnite.
I mean, listen, you're probably right.
Any of the Flyers who are under 25, pretty much, right? I mean, we'll get videos of Travis Konecny and Nolan Patrick being buddy in the hub. Just
By the way, any word, Kevin? Have you heard anything about Nolan Patrick recently?
I haven't heard a thing.
Okay,
I mean,
no talk about him traveling to a hub.
Well, to my knowledge, he's not even at the team facility.
Like now.
To this point. Right. I mean, granted, we don't know specifically who is. Like, let's put it this way. I'm not going to sit here.
We'll see July.
Technically, we're a week out from this as of recording, right? Claude Drew's not there. But I'm okay with that because I don't need to worry about that. I know he's right. We know he's worked out, and we know he's going to get himself ready to go. And
we also know that, relatively speaking, Canada is safer right now. So I'm fine with him staying home as long as possible.
I'm honestly surprised. Well, not surprised, but it's like it almost feels ridiculous that they have to leave that space to go to a place in New Jersey just to train with the whole team to go back.
Right.
Like my thought was the other way around. If you've got them all in New Jersey and they've already worked out together, get them on a plane and get them to Canada now.
I'm nervous. I want everyone in Toronto like tomorrow.
Right.
Because I'm just skittish about this whole thing getting shut down. Because I think once they're in the hubs, once they're in the bubble, I think the NHL is kind of full steam ahead.
Oh, not only are they full steam ahead, but I said by moving it to Canada, I think that they've got the best shot of any league to pull this off.
Oh, I agree. But I'm saying I think you're questionable until they get in the bubble. Once they're in the bubble, I trust their processes to be relatively good. But as long as they're here and not bubbled, I'm nervous.
Sure. So just a general question about this compared to some of the other sports. Like, do you guys expect to see opt-outs in the NHL?
I think it'll be less.
I think if you get one big name it'll open some floodgates. Other than that, I think you're going to get some fourth liners, some borderline guys. I would say probably about a dozen overall.
So I mean, who's one of them? Roman Polak, right? Dallas
Roman Polak is one who said it and things but I don't think that's not a name that moves the needle for
that's
a lot
of other
guys.
Third pair borderline guy.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not a name that moves the needle. And
how about JVR? Right, like newborn, like first kid, right? Like
same with Claude, honestly.
Right, same with Claude Drew, but both of them don't seem like they're as concerned about it. At least from my vantage point, like I feel like somebody would have, and especially JVR is a great example, actually, not only for the fact of his new family life, but I would also say for he's the player rep. So if he's the team's player rep, you're actually probably I think he's
got to be in. Yeah.
Well, no, but he's had the most access to the media during this whole time than anybody because he's the one who's inside on the discussions anyway.
Yeah.
So they make him available so that it can be explained from the player rep to the rest of the media, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think
even if he's just doing it locally, I don't think he's opting out either. I think the bigger thing.
You don't volunteer to be the player rep, and he's only been with the team for a year. It's not like he's been here a decade at this point. I mean, he must have jumped into this spot pretty quick. He must have asked for it.
So if he doesn't,
I think
who's going to really come out and do it?
Right. He's got to be on board with the plan as is.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and the Flyers as a team, their age comes in is a benefit here because when 22-year-old Ivan Provorov says it's going to be a long road trip with the boys because 22-year-old Ivan Provorov doesn't have that family life.
Not a ton of kids on this team. Right. Not a ton of wives.
Right. I was going to say, I actually want to update your statement there, Kyle. I was going to say there's a ton of kids on the team, and that actually helps because there's not a lot of
parents
kids
with kids on the team.
Right. There's not a ton of parents on the team. I mean,
didn't Farabee say that? Like long road trip with the boys or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Farabee was saying stuff like that. Provorov said something like that.
Still my favorite
on this too.
Still my favorite tweet of all of quarantine was Joel Farabee about 2 weeks after.
Oh, yeah.
Tested positive for missing the homies.
Yeah.
One of the best tweets in all of quarantine.
I loved it.
Absolutely fantastic. Because I saw Joel Farabee tested positive, and I went, oh, God. And then I read the rest of it, and it said tested positive for missing the homies. And I just,
I mean, Kyle, I think we've talked about it before, though. If there's anybody who would be that guy on the Flyers, I mean, I don't even know if it's Claude Giroux and
Brian
JVR. It's Brian
Elliott.
Elliott, it's Matt Niskanen, and it's Justin Braun. Those are the three who instantly pop into my mind.
And
because they're all those, you know.
Man, I think Matt Niskanen's going to be there. I'm not sure, but
I think Matt Niskanen's going to be there too. But here's the thing.
And then I'm fine if Justin Braun's not there.
But here's the thing about those guys, Brian Elliott and Justin Braun specifically. You've got multiple kids at home. You have this big family, no question about it. And understood.
You're on the back half of your career.
But you're also in your mid to late 30s, and you're sitting there going, "How many more chances do I have left?" And I'm hoping, hopefully, you're sitting there going, "Man, I liked our team before that. You know, we were doing great. We had a shot at this thing. Maybe this is the best shot I've got now. We're going to play a tournament, this crazy tournament. We all get to start on the same leg. We're all totally healthy. Maybe this is the best shot I've got, and I've got to go do this if I want to win a Stanley Cup, potentially."
And neither have contracts for next year either.
Right.
No. And
neither do, but I think Brian Elliott will have
Brian
one
Elliott
at some
has
point.
one if he wants it.
I think Brian Elliott has one if he wants it too, because that's one of the guys who I think is getting talked about more.
He's a leader in that room for sure, I think.
Yeah. You don't think that they'll even consider looking at an upgrade?
I think they've liked his performance so much this year that he's actually,
think you need one.
Well, I think if they
especially if you're looking
to,
at the future, where you're expecting in the next couple of years, you're expecting Carter Hart to start more and more. So therefore, your backup needs to play less and less.
Right. If
Brian Elliott doesn't need to play 45 games next year, he probably only has to play about 30, 35.
Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they could have had Cam Talbot do the same thing. Cam Talbot wanted the 45 to 50 starts a year, and that's why he left. And he's still not getting it, but he wanted the 45 to 50 starts.
He didn't earn it.
Right. And Brian Elliott was the one who sat there and said, I know where this kid's coming from. I know that he's going to be the guy eventually. So I'm fine with whatever you'll give me, and I can mentor him.
He's cool with running out the string.
And that wins
it.
You know.
So just kind of like on that vein though, like you've got to expose a goalie for expansion with a contract in 21-22, right?
Brian Elliott's a great opportunity at being that guy.
Do they sign him for 2 years then this summer, or
I wouldn't be surprised if you signed him 2 years, 1.25, something like that.
Because Lyon's going to go away, right?
Probably.
You can always re-sign Alex Lyon. I don't know if they will. But
Lyon's the type of guy who accepts the AHL a lot more than others.
He knows that's kind of where he.
Well, and not only that, but there's going to be a wave of guys who come through who have hopes for making the NHL. You know, Sandstrom's going to hope that that's the case. Whenever Sam Urson comes over, he hopes that's the case. I'm sure there's these group of guys that want to make it. And Alex Lyon kind of looks at, I'll take the opportunity to make the NHL when I can, but
he's got a little Neil Little in him.
Yeah, he does.
Remember Neil Little? He was always competent being a very, very, very good AHL goalie and occasional backup when somebody goes down.
Listen, Alex Lyon made whatever number of saves was 94 saves in that overtime game, that 5 overtime game,
pretty
something
good one.
like that. No, but I'm saying
provided a pretty great post-game quote too. If you don't know it, look it up.
He's got the potential to be because Neil Little was a goalie who could win a Calder Cup in the AHL.
Yes.
Alex Lyon's got that potential. Yep. He can win a championship in the AHL, no question about it. But
does he have the potential? Does he have the potential to dive headfirst into a scrum like Neil Little did, though?
Yeah, which is one of my favorite memories.
Another clip, by the way, if our listeners haven't watched, Neil Little goes head over heels, just cannonballs into a mosh pit pile during a scrum.
I still remember seeing that.
Senators. Yeah.
It is absolutely iconic, and once you see it, you'll know why.
That totally just took me off of my game for a second with that because I just started thinking about
When's
that.
When's the last time you thought about Neil Little?
Yeah. Who still works in the game, by the way? Thought that should shock you.
You know who I saw on a YouTube channel a couple weeks ago?
Who would you see?
Frank the Animal Bialowas.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Frank
that's a name, man.
Bialowas.
I watched several games in the Spectrum, just him beating the snot out of some random Albany River rat.
I wish I remembered more of his career than I did. The guys for the Phantoms that I remembered early on, I remembered Peter White. I remember Mark Gregg, and then it kind of gets. I
remember John Stevens.
John Stevens. John Slaney's a great. Yeah, that's a great one. And then as they started to shift. Because there was a couple of years where they weren't very good in the middle of that, and then they got good again over the lockout year. Because I'm trying to think of who
They had a bunch of people there.
Well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I know, but I'm
Carter
thinking of
and
the guys.
Richards were there, weren't
Well, Carter and Richards were there, but I was thinking of a guy like John Sim was a great AHLer
John
who was
Sim,
never
wow.
going to be an NHL.
Oh, he was a
quality.
great preseason player.
Yeah, he was.
Andy Delmore was a solid AHL player.
Carson Tarinsky.
Andy Delmore had a few moments in the NHL. Though,
since we're talking about poor NHL players who were good and AHL players, I do want to mention that Mikhail Vorobiev went back to Russia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Since we're talking about mediocre, borderline NHL players, sorry, Mickey.
Well, he's I think eventually
I was never a fan.
I think eventually he knew he had no shot of being a regular. That's the thing. Like he'd get here, he would never take. If he showed up in Philadelphia, whether it was at any point, whether it was making the team out of camp last year or at any point during any of the other call-ups,
He was always holding a spot.
If he took that opportunity and ran with it the way that Nick Aube-Kubel did, or somebody like that, then he's going to make it. But
have him or Nick Aube-Kubel?
Well, because Nick Aube-Kubel took the opportunity and showed he was a good player and showed he was ready for the call-up.
Who would you rather play on your fourth line, Vorobiev or Tyler Pitlick?
I'd have Pitlick right now.
I'm taking Tyler Pitlick any day of the week.
Which is such an interesting thing because when Aube-Kubel played on the Phantoms with Vorobiev this season, Vorobiev was a better player.
Yeah.
He's way more talented.
It's crazy how things translate differently. And Nick Aube-Kubel is just really, really, really well suited for that bottom six role.
It's know your role. Yeah.
He can be Michael Raffle too. He can be Michael Raffle Jr. and just kind of be in that middle six where you can come up and play some top 6 minutes if you need him. But really, you want him on your third or fourth line, and he's really, really good there. He can kill some penalties. He's got potential to follow in Michael Raffle's footsteps, and we have that role filled for the next decade. So I'm fine with it.
Kevin, did you read any of Charlie O'Connor's tracking project on forechecking?
I probably didn't because of the fact that I was very distracted over the course of time.
We're about to get a little crunchy here. So, Dad, if you're listening, you can probably skip forward a little bit. Josh is a little bit of a numbers nerd.
I'm not as much of a numbers nerd like that, but but I do read some of those numbers. Like I do know, like I don't ignore Corsi or things like that. Like I do acknowledge it. I don't. I'm.
You just don't calculate it yourself.
Well, no. I don't calculate myself, and I don't. I'm more 50-50 on it. Like I'm 50-50 eye test. What did I see? And 50-50. What did the numbers say? Kind of to balance out.
Josh, what would you say you are on that same scale?
I'm probably 50-50 too.
Okay.
Well, no, because at the end of the day, I can come out and watch it. But I can come out and watch a game and then go, this is what I think I saw. I don't like the way this guy played. And I might read a number and go, that was the Corsi though? Like, okay, it's better than what I thought. Maybe he had a better game than what I remembered. Or maybe a guy who I thought had a really good game, you go, well, the number actually doesn't show dominance like you thought. You just remember a couple of good shifts.
Like I kind of like the stuff, but like when you get real algorithmic, right, with WAR and expected goals and people are saying
I think
like,
WAR is one of the best. WAR is one of the best advanced stats in my book. It's nice and clean.
But who makes everything into it, right? Like margin for error.
Smarter people than me is the answer, and that's why I trust it. Right? I read the graph and I go, man, I don't know how that graph got made, but that sure is impressive.
You got wins above replacement, you got goals, above replacement.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
But just Nick Aube-Kubel was like a ridiculous forechecker.
Nick Aube-Kubel is, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw a figure, and Charlie retweeted it, so this is how I know. I think is where I saw it, that he was the number one in the league at his role, like for his role, for like his ice time or something like that, or whatever, like in comparison to all these other guys, that he was number one in terms of being a guy who actually was that type of player. Like we always glorify the grinder type player, the checking forward. And yet here's a guy who not only was a checking forward, but played well defensively and provided offensively. And I think that was the combination. He was the best at those three things combined, was checking role, but a defensive player who didn't allow goals or shot suppression, things like that, and still scored.
Yeah, and I think that really, really, really speaks to Alain Vigneault. And he absolutely slotted Aube-Kubel in perfectly and recognized his strengths, his weaknesses, gave him a fantastic amount of ice time, right? We're talking about him being, the most well-utilized player in the league, right? He's the best in his role. That speaks to Aube-Kubel, but it also speaks to Alain Vigneault. And he's starting to pick up a little bit of traction as a potential Jack Adams.
He's a front runner, isn't he?
It depends on who you ask.
It depends on who you ask, right? Some people he's a front runner. Some people he doesn't even get nominated. It's really a wide open field, and it's
Kyle, did you see that one? I mean, apparently, according to Patrick Sharp, he's not a candidate at all.
Right. Well, the NHL did themselves a
Blasphemy.
disservice. The NHL did themselves a disservice by not giving up on the regular season sooner. Because I guess,
yeah.
People should have voted right away. Do you remember anything that happened like the last week of February in terms of games? Because like that feels like 6 years ago. Those games feel like they took place in 1994. I don't remember anything. I remember the 2-0 loss to Boston. And that's the other than that, the last month previous to that is an absolute blur. And I think a lot of people are looking at it a similar way. So we're voting for these awards is going to be weird because you're not voting right away after the season ends. You're getting ready for the playoffs like you normally vote.
I think they're in.
Are they?
Yeah. Voting happened.
Oh, it was a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
but
voting
they
happened.
still waited a while. They still waited a while.
Yeah, they did. They waited into June for it when we were still sitting there in March and going, "Hey, we don't know what's going to happen."
You still had 2 months where things were kind of sitting, and you forget things. So I'm curious to see what voting looks like, just with how things have changed so dramatically. You know, you go from a 70-game season, and we're going to try to get some more games in, so we're not going to vote yet. Okay, cool. Now all of a sudden we're July 1st, and maybe they're coming back soon.
When are they going to release the votes?
I believe they're going to do it like after the playoffs.
Really?
I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to try to fill the void here somewhere. But
you think
they've got to do it in July if they're in? It's like just give them something.
Honestly,
they missed out on the draft. So
yeah, back to Hub Cities real quick.
Sure,
Kevin, do you know how many NHL game ready venues Edmonton has? Because I know Toronto has at least 2, because they have where the ACC or whatever it's called now,
the Scotiabank
Arena, and where the Marlies play,
right?
Which is viable, not great, but viable. The Flyers will probably play there when they're playing the round robin games. But do you know how many Edmonton has? I'm sure rinks are no problem, but NHL caliber, playoff rinks.
Well, here's the thing about that too, because the proposal I saw for Edmonton, this doesn't go into anything like I don't know the answer to the number of actual like arena settings that they have or something like that where they'd be able to do that. But the thing I saw about Edmonton's bid is that they can put every player who's involved in that hub city in a hotel that was right across the street from where the venue was, which indicates to me that this is not really about rink space for games as much as it is for practices. Okay. And they're going to probably treat Edmonton, like in Edmonton's case, I would imagine it's done like World Juniors. That
here's 3 games a day.
Right. Yeah. Here's the rink. Here's the number of games we're playing each day.
Right.
Go over and play. And that's it.
Then you lose half the teams after the first round.
Right. And then things get way easier. Yeah, it's a bummer that the Flyers are going to play in that first slot every time, more than likely, especially the first couple games, because they're the quote unquote less important. The seeding games are not nearly as important as the play-in games, and I get that. But I really don't want to have to listen to the Flyers at 2:00 or on the radio because I can't get home to watch it.
Well, I'm really curious to see what they do about it, because the NBA actually put out the rest of their regular season, because they're doing like 7 regular season games or something like that.
Did they just go 4-7-10 and just start a game at 10:00 on the East Coast?
I don't remember exactly what they did, but like they had a couple good variations. Like there was 4:00, 6:30, 8:00. Like, and obviously I have multiple places to play games that they can overlap.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anything wrong with the times. It's not like they sat there and said, here comes a 10 a.m. game and here comes a 1:30 and here comes a 2 and like all these outrageous numbers. It was basically 4, 6:30, 8, some were 7 too, I think. But like they managed to keep it relatively within the same 6-hour start period. Okay, from
well, that's
4
good
to
to
10,
hear.
we're not starting any games later than 10, but we're not starting earlier than 4. And that at least allowed you for some balance. But the NHL has a totally different, structure, because you need to have the same playing surface. It's not as simple as go build your own. Like literally,
you can build 12 basketball courts in a large enough space.
I don't know if you saw the picture. I saw a picture. Like it's literally each team's home floor is being built
that's
somewhere.
Funny.
Like you have.
I kind of respect that.
You had
that's
the
funny.
Miami Heat next to the Indiana Pacers.
Right.
Or something like that, like it was really funny to see. And this should like, honestly, if I'm the NHL, come up with a logo for this thing and like to put it center ice, come up with a logo and say, this is the COVID-19, like do something. I don't know. It doesn't have to say COVID-19 in it, but it would be funny.
by the way, tells you how much I pay attention to the NBA. The most recent Indiana Pacer I can name is Ron Artest. And we're looking at least a decade there. So, but okay. So we do have to talk about one more thing before we get out of here, and that is the draft lottery.
Sure.
Because my goodness, that was fun to watch. So I don't think anybody listening to the show has missed it, but just in case you have, the third pick in the draft will be the Ottawa Senators, and that is their pick, or is that the San Jose?
No, the San Jose pick.
That's the San Jose pick. And then the second overall pick in the draft will be the LA Kings. And then the first overall pick will be
somebody.
A playoff team.
Somebody, we don't know.
One of the teams in the play-in round that loses will have the first overall pick, and presumably Alexis Lafreniere. And we don't know how that's going to happen. And that's a lot of fun. So we all know that the Pittsburgh Penguins, as the most vocal opponents of the best of five, a goalie can win a short series.
Yeah.
If they lose, if Carey Price, quote unquote, steals that series from them, they're getting Lafreniere, correct?
I don't know if that's really what's happening, but the lotto balls would probably tend to.
And Sean Couturier has to worry about shutting down the combination of Sidney Crosby, Alexis Lafreniere for the next several years. And I certainly hate that.
Well, Lafreniere is a winger.
Right. So Crosby
so on the same
and Lafreniere,
line.
Sean Couturier has to worry about shutting both of those guys down.
Nah.
Good luck.
Yeah, Lafreniere's on the left side, so I think wouldn't you put? I guess you would put Gensel on the right.
You could put me on the right. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, right now I think Gensel's on the left and Jason Zucker's on the right. But
whoever plays on the right,
I'd move Gensel to the right in a heartbeat for that.
Whoever plays on the right is going to have 80 points.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You could put Mikhail Vorobiev there, and he would still have 80 points.
So what you're trying to tell me is that over the next few years that Brian Rust is going to become a 90-point All-Star?
Is he not already? Happened? Didn't he score 40 goals last year?
Yeah.
He's already there.
27 and 55 to this point.
He led their team.
Oh, no. What about last year, though? The
year before?
18-19.
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, take a look. I'm pretty sure Brian Rust scored 40 goals.
No, he scored 18.
Now, was it 18? Somebody scored 40.
This year was the increase.
Maybe that's it. Okay.
This year was 27 and he had 50. Yeah, okay, but to your point, Kyle, because it's valid, he went from 72 games, 18 goals, and 35 points last year to 55 games, 27 goals, and 56 points this year.
So he was point per game. Okay. And that's without Lafreniere there. That's without Lafreniere there. By the way.
But they never have prospects.
All right, so what's your conspiracy theory on who's getting the first overall pick?
I think you said it.
Oh, you're in the same boat? You're on the same
I thought it, and then I got the text from you, and I got a text from one of the from the co-host at 97.3 that said the same thing.
Perfect.
Who's ready for Pittsburgh?
It's gonna be, because we can't have a team in Kansas City, apparently. God forbid. But either way.
Well, everybody, here's something that was really funny, because so they start doing the list, right? And they tell us right off the bat, we have 8 cards.
They're in the top.
Somebody's in the top 3.
We're doing a second lottery.
Which at first glance I sat there and I went, great. Exactly what I said didn't need to happen. We couldn't just find out. But if it's third, it's not that big of a deal, I guess.
It's cool, right?
It's kind of like, if it's third, it'll work. Like, it's fine.
If it's second, the Flyers jump that high to get Nolan Patrick. Like, it's not impressive.
So they flip the cards and you start through the running. I think it was, what was it? Buffalo was first.
Buffalo got railed.
No, but New Jersey comes out 7th, and everybody went, "Oh, good, no. It wasn't." No, oh, good, it wasn't them.
Yeah.
Finally, it's not them. Like, they've picked all these number 1 picks that they've had. It's not them. Thank goodness. Okay, so you avoid that one, and now you're going to get to the mystery team that's going to have the first overall pick, and there's a chance that it could be There's a combination of teams out of the qualifier who play in the Metro.
Yeah. How many? Yeah,
it could be this could be the Island. This could be the Islanders. Could be the Rangers. It could be the Penguins, like we said. And Pittsburgh just seemed like the easiest one, because Pittsburgh. Wouldn't it be, like, honestly? It's going to be this is the 2020 draft. Wouldn't it be ripe after all the mid 2000s drafts that 15 years later, after Fleury, after Crosby, after Malkin was a top 2, after all of those picks, here
3 cups just wasn't enough.
So
but 15 years later, that, look, without trying to be I'm not trying to sit there and act like Crosby's not done in his career or anything like that, but he's on the back half. He's played for 14, 15 years.
Sure.
Okay. He's on the back half. So you're going to just if they got the first overall pick, you're just going to vault to, here's the next one.
There's the future.
Right away.
There's your next decade.
No suffering to get a guy who even, and I'm not saying that, and look, I thought it, because this was asked, they brought this up on 97.3, the week after. I was listening on occasion because, first of all, because Kyle, you got to remember this. This is what, not 12 hours, but it was about 16 hours, 18 hours before the wedding last week. And I'm just trying to follow this. And all I can think to say as I'm preparing for this, I'm going, of course.
That's why I just shot you a quick text.
No, but
I figured if you're busy, you won't answer.
Of course an NHL team, an unnamed NHL team is going to have the first overall pick. Because it couldn't have just been as simple as, here it is. Here's
Detroit, Ottawa.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even care if it wasn't Detroit, Ottawa.
By the way,
the Kings move up.
I am never, ever, ever hearing any speculation that the NHL draft lottery is legit. There's no way. Because you know what the stories are? Detroit got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
LA's up there. Oh my God, a playoff team is going to get Lafreniere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your 3 big stories. And if that doesn't happen, if it's Detroit, Ottawa, everybody goes, oh yeah, okay, cool. And moves on. And it's not a story. But now you're talking about it.
When they talked about it on 97.3, this is a totally valid point. I don't is Lafreniere going to be, is he McDavid? Is he Crosby? Probably not. But because everything's a potential play.
Sure.
You don't put. It's hard to put a kid like that. Here
if you
he
sat
is,
here and
he's
definitively said yes, he is McDavid, he is Crosby, you're stupid.
Right, and that's the point. There is no comparison, but he has he's got a skill set that's like McDavid.
There. Yep.
Right, everything that he's good at is what McDavid's good at. And imagine if he grows into certain things. I'm not saying he's going to be better than McDavid. I'm saying he's got the same.
You're telling me Edmonton's going to get the first overall pick, right?
No, I'm not telling you Edmonton's going to get the first
that
overall
would be
pick
horrifying.
Yep, it would. Oh my goodness. See, that's the one nobody thinks about.
The Pacific Division then has Vegas. Then they have the Vancouver Canucks with Pettersson Besser. Then you have, oh my God. Seattle's got no chance.
You know what? I shouldn't say that because you know what it is? We don't think about Edmonton getting it. We jump and go Pittsburgh.
Right, because we panic. No. Right.
So there's 5 Metro teams that are potentially, right? So if you had to choose out of the 5.
Who would you want to give it to?
One of them to get them?
Yeah. I mean, if you have to choose.
That's so hard to do.
You got the Rangers, Islanders, Columbus.
You know what? The tiebreaker for me between the Rangers, the Islanders, and Columbus is the fact that the Rangers and the Islanders have really good goalie prospects, and the Columbus Blue Jackets don't. Elvis Merzlikins sucks. Don't at me.
And they got Korpisalo too. They'll get it done.
Okay, fine, but they're not the other prospects, right? They're not Sorokin. They're not Shesterkin. Those goalies are scary, man. I am concerned about the Rangers. You want to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins looping Sidney Crosby into Alexis Lafreniere? How about the Rangers looping Henrik Lundqvist into Georgiev, into maybe one of their other prospects will take it from Georgiev, who's already very good.
Shesterkin.
Right. And he might take it from
on his way.
Right. And he might take it from Georgiev, who's already very good. That's horrifying.
Right.
I don't want Lafreniere anywhere near, especially the Rangers with Panarin there too. Ugh.
Well, what about
Barzal in the Islanders?
Yeah, what about next to Barzal?
I am far less worried about him next to Pierre-Luc Dubois than I am next to him next to Matt Barzal.
Exactly.
I would choose Columbus.
Give him to Columbus. Here you go. You can have him.
Or the Islanders. I'm fine.
Right.
You feel bad for those teams, kind of.
Realistically, I just want them to go out of the division.
Yeah.
Well, right, but So Edmonton, right?
Listen, Edmonton, or honestly, okay. So Taylor Hall has this number 1.
Yeah, I know. I knew it was coming. Arizona's
But wait. He's a pending UFA.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're Arizona, do you have to re-sign him? Do you have to re-sign him to a 1-year deal just to try to get the lottery pick?
I don't know.
By the way,
I mean,
if that would be a feel-good story if they got him. If
our listeners are unaware, the team Taylor Hall is on has won the draft lottery 5 times in his 9 years. He has a better than 50% chance of winning the number 1 overall pick in the lottery. You sign Taylor Hall, you're getting the next McDavid. You're getting the next Crosby. You're getting, like, it's insane. 5 out of 9 in a lottery?
I'm laughing, Kyle, because of the fact you've asked me multiple times on this show of course now I started watching this. That was a Steve Dangle delivery.
I know
if I've ever heard it. Like that was so perfect.
And they talked about this. And they talked about this concept. It's like, do you have to re-sign him?
I'm not gonna lie. I've been hooked on his trade tree videos lately. I love him.
Eric Lindros came out right before we started recording this podcast. It's 42 minutes long.
Oh, did he really today?
Yep. It just came out before
I've got to
this
watch
podcast.
that one then. Because
the thumbnail for the video is Philadelphia Flyers receive Eric Lindros. And then the rest of the whole thumbnail is what happened to the other side.
You know
of
what?
That trade
You know
trade.
what? He what's it? Oh my God, it is.
It's
Holy
crazy.
smokes.
It's
Because
insane. Look it up on Sportsnet. We will include it in the link to this podcast. Because we are still live, by the way, even though we're talking about Sportsnet's videos.
I might have to do a write up on that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
I mean, I've done stuff on it before. Like I did it in over the course of the months that we had nothing going on and no news like this. And I did like the whole Lindros thing as a thing. But the fact that it's going to be detailed in this way
for 40 plus minutes. Yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I want to see this too.
It's actually time to wrap up this podcast so I can go watch that video.
Me too.
Josh told me his girlfriend's going to threaten to come in any minute. So I, try to get out before that. Until next time, you can make sure to find us on Twitter at YWT Podcast. And don't forget to search everywhere else you would think at YWT Podcast, blah, blah, blah. Josh, anything you want to say before you get out of here? Any plugs? You want people to follow you on Twitter? They can. It's up to you.
That's okay. Thanks for bringing me on.
Okay. And then obviously Kevin can be found at Kevin_Dursa at Sports Talk Philly, at Flyerdelphia on 97.3 ESPN all the time, because he's famous now. I haven't gotten an invite yet, but that's okay. And Kevin, how about you? All right. Sit back and relax. Kevin has one more thing to say here.
No, I don't. I don't have much to say. If nothing else, I just hope that the next time we're doing this, we're actually inching closer to games because I've been, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. Took a little bit of a break for people. I'll say it here for people who may not have followed along on Twitter necessarily or whatever, but I didn't really, from last Friday night when I heard something about nearing a deal for the CBA thing was the last story I wrote, and I didn't write anything for about a week.
Good for you.
Because I sat back and I just
you also got married. You have an excuse.
Stayed active on Twitter. Like literally was shooting text messages to the station from the beach. Did a phone call on Wednesday on the show, even though I was still down the shore.
That's awesome. Should have done it from the beach. That's the play.
Well, if it wasn't raining, I might have tried, but unfortunately, it was one of those days, and that was why it was like it was our last day down there, and we were like packing stuff up because it was raining, and I'm like,
gotcha.
They sent me a last minute text. I'm like, can I hop on the station really quick?
There you go.
But nonetheless, like I'm ready to start seeing stuff actually come out now. I'm ready to do this, like get back to games and stuff. So hopefully we're less than a month away now. Hopefully, and based on everything that's out there, hopefully we're less than a month away from the games happening and we can finally start to get back to having some really good stuff here.
Yeah, and on that note, we're going to get out of here, and we're wishing the best, and we're hoping everything goes smoothly. And I talked to Kevin before the show. Mm-hmm. Don't tell anybody. We're going to skip next week. But as long as the players get it into camp okay, 2 weeks from now, we'll record, and then we'll be back weekly.
There we go.
That's the plan. It's not official. It's still tentative to them getting into the hubs and everybody being safe and blah, blah, blah. But as long as things go well, we'll be picking up weekly very, very soon. And it's definitely good to start getting close to being back. And until next time, take care, everybody.